Marvel teases its 2025 TV lineup. The Skeleton Crew unearths a new trailer. Plus, Westeros may be heading to the big screen. All that and more coming up on Multiverse News. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll. I've been drinking a little bit too much to host a show, but it is election night and I feel like I've earned it. On our panel today, we have Haley Hobbs. What's going on?
I'm dead-ass sober, but glad to be here talking about our fictional worlds. Yay.
Yes, indeed. We all have our forms of escapism. Sometimes mine's in a bottle or a can. This is a can. I don't know why I said bottle. And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here before. Good to be back.
That was just last week, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
Did you miss me? I guess not.
It feels like it's been 100 years.
Well, I also just podcasted with you last night because of the Penguin.
This is true.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's yeah.
It's all, they all run together. And that's the voice, the lovely voice of Jay Sisson. What's happening, Jay?
Hey, not too much. Got my I voted sticker on, ready to party.
Woo! I forgot I changed shirts. I should have stolen my I voted sticker. See, now it just feels like a lie.
Well, go get it.
Well. No. Well, now it feels like
Prove
you're
it. Let me see
challenging
your sticker.
It feels like you're telling me you think it's a lie. I don't know where it is.
I was just encouraging you.
I stripped it off. Yes, well, everyone's voted at this point anyway. Yes, I voted it somewhere. I'll show it somewhere on a future cast. I need a week to come up with another I voted sticker.
Anybody got one? Anybody got an extra?
I grabbed my mom. I picked up Paige and my mom to take us all to the polls together. We're all at the same polling location, so I picked everybody up. We all rode together, and on the way, like, convinced my mom how to vote.
So you'll just steal her sticker.
She's been wildly swinging back and forth, like just how, folks do, elderly folks can do sometimes, where they're like, I heard a positive report, I'm voting Trump now. I heard a positive report, I'm voting Kamala now. And I was like, okay, vote Kamala, come on. Okay, let's do this. And first, we're going to start off the show with our 5-star review. We've got a review from James. It says, hi guys, this is James, 44-year-old black male from Jacksonville, Florida. I religiously listen to this podcast every week. I don't know many people of my complexion that listen to geeky podcasts. None of my close friends are Marvel or DC or nerd show lovers, but I love it. So having a podcast to listen to that discusses all of it is definitely a heaven send. Thanks for all you guys do. You're all my favorites.
Yeah,
someone
see, that's
finally,
how you do it.
Yep.
No, I like the really divisive ones.
I know you do, Matt.
No power rankings this week. Just straight across the board. But hey, that's why we do this. We like the same sort of stuff, and we like connecting with like-minded people who like the same sort of stuff. So this is a fun space to talk about things that we're all interested in and excited about.
1,000%. I've talked about it before, but that's why I named this podcast network Stranded Panda, is that sometimes it feels like you're a stranded, rare creature. And this podcast is a way of connecting with other people like ourselves and finding out there's other people that love all the stuff we love and take it all seriously and want to talk about it all the time, or at least hear about it all the time. So glad to hear from you, James.
Before we settled on Stranded Panda, we were seriously considering Olive Garden, because when you're here, you're family.
That's right.
We would have run into some serious litigation issues, though, I would imagine.
That was the main thing that, dissuaded us.
I don't think that's the main thing, Jay Scotty. I think you were the only one pushing for it. And we were all saying, like, it's going to be really confusing.
I remember it definitely, but you have your narrative.
It was just in that same area where you wanted to call always watching breadsticks. I don't know. I don't know why you were really, like, building out this whole Olive Garden cinematic universe.
I got a $25 gift card that's been burning a hole in my back pocket for like 2 years now.
You could go get yourself like a half of the tour of Italy off the menu.
That's right.
$25.
It's a good point. All right, let's dive into our first story this week. Last week, mere minutes after our Tuesday evening recording session, we were both delighted and quite disheartened by Kevin's actions when Marvel Studios dropped its Look Ahead Disney Plus trailer, which not only provided release dates, but showcased our first official look at footage for a whopping 8 streaming projects. Here's what we learned. Box office juggernaut Deadpool and Wolverine will be available to stream on the platform beginning November 12th, 2024. We already knew Daredevil Born Again is set to be streaming March 4th, 2025, but the trailer, which was intercut with footage from the other shows, gave us our first look at the villain Muse, the return of John Bernthal's Punisher, as well as Bullseye, and perhaps most surprisingly, the inclusion of Miss Marvel's dad, Yusuf Khan. What If Season 3 will begin streaming this December 22nd with no word on whether it will be weekly or a daily release like last year. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will begin airing January 29th, 2025. Riri Williams' Ironheart makes her return beginning June 24th, 2025. Eyes of Wakanda, the animated anthology series, is set for August 6th, 2025 debut, and Marvel Zombies will premiere sometime in October 2025 with the live-action Wonder Man series starring Yahya Abdul-Mateen II arriving later that December. Quite a lot to unpack here. Where do we start?
We start by being excited because we're going to be so back next year, baby. But also, this isn't following the format that Marvel Studios said they were going to do. They said we were going to do 3 movies and 2 shows a year. And this is 3 movies and like 6 shows. So where's the discrepancy here? I don't know.
Well, I think 3 of them are animated.
Yeah, but still. So I feel like you could guarantee maybe some of these later ones in the year next year might get pushed. I think don't be surprised if that happens. But this is so exciting. This is a great slate. I think kicking it off, kind of ending this year with What If will be fun. Animated, starting the year with animation with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will be fun. I know I'm really looking forward to the Eyes of Wakanda anthology series because Brad Winderbaum said that was going to be really connected to the MCU. So I'm really curious just to see what he meant by that. And maybe he was lying to us, as they do at Marvel, as we know. So I'm looking forward to all of it. New characters, some fresh characters, new takes on characters we love. Let's effing go.
Yeah. I won't go too long talking about this because I talked about it ad nauseum yesterday on the MCU cast. If you guys want to check that out, it's on our YouTube channel as well, where you can watch our full breakdown where we did a frame by frame and tried to look at all the characters that are showing up in all these shows. And it's a lot. It's so much. It's just like, we've never had them release a trailer like this. We've had lots of these like look ahead trailers, but it's normally shows we've seen a lot from. This is the first time we've ever gotten like 8 or 9 series we know nothing about, and like just dropped all this content at once. It was a wild thing to go through, and just like freeze framing and being like, I'm not even sure what show this is. Like, this is one of the shows. Really having to almost decipher the trailer. It was interesting. I'm excited. I agree with Haley that I think it's kind of pushing against the idea of them doing 3 movies and 2 shows, even just the live action. It's 3 movies and 3 shows. So it's a lot. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. I'm very, very excited about every one of the projects. Don't get it twisted. I do share the like, are we oversaturated? Because like, I know that it's hard when we read a whole series of dates, but it's like January we got one, February we got a movie, March we got a TV show, May we have a movie, June we have a TV show, July we have a movie, and then it skips a couple months, and then it's like October and December.
It does give me 2021 PTSD a little bit.
Absolutely.
Well, Haley, you said you want to start with excitement. I want to start with revenge against specifically Kevin Feige, because he did release this trailer literally, you said literally minutes, and it literally was minutes after we finished our recording of this program last week and posted it on Disney Plus for all of the Agatha viewers to see. And I feel like there was a little bit of intentionality behind that, personally. Kevin, if you're listening, you are on the list. You are on the list. And overall, I sort of share the same sentiments with you all. It's an eyebrow raise, right? Because we were accustomed to the idea, or the plan at least, that Bob Iger laid out, that Marvel Studios would be turning down the faucet a little bit on their content and slowing down. And we saw that this year. We saw Deadpool and Wolverine be the only theatrical release that Marvel Studios had this year. And we saw a couple shows here and there like Echo and Agatha, but it was a light year, right, for what we were used to with Marvel Studios. And we sort of thought that would be the formula going forward. And now we're coming up on 2025. We're going to have 9 different projects to take in throughout the year. And it's going to be an interesting experiment, right? Because we've seen Marvel when it did go all out in terms of content production. Whenever we were getting Miss Marvel and Moon Knight and She-Hulk and all of these shows coming at us just rapid fire all the time, and it didn't quite work out to the best. The best results. I mean, people who are fans, obviously, if you listen to this, you probably liked all of those shows and you probably have fond memories of watching all those shows. But just from a business standpoint, like, these did not top the ratings charts. You know, there were not like a lot of people rushing to Disney Plus and signing up to watch all of the shows. So I think what we may start to see is a further moving away from the connectivity of specifically the shows. I mean, we've seen them rebrand as Marvel Television very intentionally. We know that at the beginning, like WandaVision, that's how it was pitched. You got to watch this. It's going to connect to the movies. But we've sort of seen a backing away of that a little bit. You've still got the Easter eggs. You've still got the references. You'll see a character pop up every once in a while. But for the most part, these are self-contained stories. We just saw Agatha. We saw no Scarlet Witch. We saw Loki. We did not see Thor. You know, it's like we're starting to see these like self-contained stories a bit, a la Echo, a la Agatha. And I think we'll continue to see that. So we'll see more projects. We'll see Ironheart. We'll see Wonder Man, but I would imagine that these will make an effort to disconnect from that giant web that's going to be weaved with these like big event. I mean, think about the films we have: Captain America, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, these like gigantic team up movies, multiple characters, big budgets on the screen. I think the shows are going to try to differentiate themselves from that a little bit. So we're still seeing some experimentation with Marvel Studios, and it'll be interesting to check in a year from now and say, how did it go for them ultimately?
Haley, I love the fact that you kick things off with the excitement. And I think it's really important to emphasize and reaffirm that, because this was an awesome sizzle reel. I think it clocked in right around 1 minute and 27 seconds, but just jam packed. And Matt, to your point, I had a hard time distinguishing, which show is which. They're all kind of going back and forth here. But I do want to hone in on some of the specifics and some of the things we haven't talked about specifically here. First and foremost, Daredevil Born Again, our first official look at footage from this thing. The series I am the most excited for, the series we got to see the most from. One of the things I did not expect, and maybe I should have been anticipating this with the title Born Again and the fact that we are, so far removed from those first 3 seasons on Netflix. There was a shot where Matt goes to reach for his billy club or batons out of like a case, and I got the sense, it's been a while. He's hung up the suit. You don't see that in any of the action. It doesn't seem like he's missed a beat at all. But I did find that a little interesting and kind of curious. It's like, okay, he's kind of picking the mantle back up, which is a trope we've seen from a lot of heroes. So that doesn't necessarily excite me all that much. I'm hoping that's something that happens within the first couple of episodes. But I love seeing the suit on display. I love season 3, but one of my complaints was we didn't have enough of the red suit. It was Bullseye. Spoilers for Daredevil season 3, but we had Bullseye in the red suit. And I just love getting to see Matt in the suit. All the action that's on display here. The relationship with Wilson Fisk seems like it's going to be incredibly interesting there. I won't spend too much time on other properties, but in the animation realm, I am incredibly excited for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, just based on the animation style. It really evoked feelings of like a video game for me. I felt like we were in a 3D environment and the camera was making full use of that, like panning around and whatnot. And then Eyes of Wakanda, a lot of people, I've seen the discourse online, they are describing it as similar to What If. And it is similar, but I do not think it's the same. We only got like 1-2 shots, ever so brief. I did my own little frame by frame, and I am picking up on the fact that these characters are a lot more stylized. So
yeah, almost anime-esque compared to what the What If stuff is like.
Yeah, and I like What If. I think it serves its purpose in What If, and I think it makes sense that zombies would continue that thread having been spun off from that show. But it excites me to get to see different types of animation, especially in Eyes of Wakanda and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
So I definitely identify with all the comments so far, but I do feel like we did spend a lot of time talking about the worries. Can we go around and just say like what other than Daredevil? Because I feel like I may be wrong, but I feel like everyone that would be their top pick. What are you most excited for other than Daredevil in these 8 series?
It's Wonder Man for me. It just seems like such a unproven entity, and just that little snippet there. Hey, Simon Williams auditioning for Wonder Man. What is the story there, and how does he actually become Wonder Man? Is it a meta thing? Does he actually get superhero powers? Are we going to get to see an entirely different side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Yeah, like I said, there's a lot that we don't know, but that's what excites me. It seems so different.
I'll jump in because that's my answer too.
Okay, cool.
and I loved the take that they've got so far for Wonder Man, and yeah, I'm 50-50 on whether he'll get powers, and that's kind of an exciting place to be. Like, I don't know, maybe we'll get another trailer and it'll be all about how he gets powers at some point, and that's the character in comics does have powers, but he's also an actor. This version though, like how cool, we've talked about it on MCU Cast and maybe here. But the idea of like getting to know the culture of the MCU, like the internal culture of what's going on, and the idea that they're building some sort of cinematic universe. There's a shot in the trailer, and I'm this is a supposition because I don't know. There's a guy who kind of looks like Einstein. He's got crazy hair, and he's looking up at a big wall full of pictures.
Very early on in the trailer, yeah.
Yeah, really early on in the trailer, but it's not connected to anything. I have no idea what it's from, but I think it might be, because it looks like a mood board, I think it might be like a producer explaining what Wonder Man, how Wonder Man is going to fit into the cinematic universe. Like, it's got all these pictures of aliens that look kind of Marvel-esque, but aren't. And I'm wondering if this is like, we talked about the show, The Franchise, it's been running on HBO, and how it's like a send-up of Marvel, but it's not loving at all. And I'm wondering if this might be something like that, but in the MCU, and this like meta look, like kind of She-Hulk-esque, but a meta look at what it is to be a production studio making Marvel movies, but in this case, they're actually in the universe where the heroes exist. I think it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I think Ironheart looks really interesting too. I want to call that one out because the suit looks cool. It's cool to see how it's working. It seems to be a change up from where we left that character in Wakanda Forever, and there just seems to be like a set direction here for this character. We know that the Young Avengers are being built in the background. We've seen Wiccan make his debut. We've seen Miss Marvel gather Kate Bishop to the team, and you would imagine there'll be some sort of a connection with that team that's being built, I would think, by the end of this. We know that there's like a mystical connection here in Ironheart, which I think is fascinating, the idea of technology versus like magic and what that kind of looks like. The Mephisto rumors are flying about Ironheart, that this will be where we meet Mephisto for the first time, which is really interesting. So I think that's really cool. I mean, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that character. I definitely Daredevil is number one because I think it does stand out above the other ones. To me, like just based on what we've got in this sizzle reel, I think the reshoots really did that film a lot of good, like moving away from the 20 episodes, saying, you know what, maybe we shouldn't reboot this thing, maybe we should connect it to the old Netflix universe, which was not the way it was at the beginning. Like at the beginning they said, no, this is a reboot with Charlie Cox, new character, but then they sort of changed course, and clearly that was the right move. So, but yeah, Ironheart looks like an interesting summer watch for sure.
Absolutely. What about you, Haley?
Stick with Eyes of Wakanda. Like, Brad Winderbaum really did hook me by saying it's the most connected to the MCU. And I want to see what a true anthology series in the MCU looks like. That's what they said What If was, and that's not what If ended up being at the end of the day. So give me a real anthology series. Tell me different stories. And Wakanda is such a rich world in the comics and on the screen. Like, there's so many cool things that happen there. So that's my favorite. I'm looking forward to.
I am glad that Ironheart got brought up because I'm with you, Jay. I love the footage that was shown. It actually restored a lot of confidence in that series for me, but it does remain the one that I'm the most concerned for, and that's primarily from the release slate. We're talking about how full this year looks like in June, right after, Brave New World, right into Daredevil, right into Thunderbolts, and before Fantastic Four. That's where I think they run the risk of a little bit of fatigue. And I could see, and June is a time where, oftentimes Star Wars has something come out in June. You've got multiple blockbusters coming out in June. So like Haley, like you said at the very top, you wouldn't be surprised if one of these gets moved. I kind of hope at least one of them does get moved just to spread things out a little bit, and I hope Ironheart doesn't get lost, or any of these get lost in the shuffle for that matter.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, there's a gap between Fantastic Four and the October release of Zombies.
I think we have something in August, do we not?
You're right, there is something in August, and I'm not remembering what it is.
Eyes of Wakanda.
Eyes of Wakanda.
Oh, Eyes of Wakanda.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Early August too, August 6th.
I do think
that'll be right after Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
you're right.
We still got that 2-month gap there, but September. I guess just September. Lord, this year is packed. Goodness.
It's a lot. Like, honestly, from a podcasting perspective, when I look at that from like what we do on source pages, I'm like, oh my God, this is seriously like 2021 again. Like, this is so much, but it's exciting. I do think something will get pushed. But to your point, Matt, some of these are animated, and we know that not everybody watches every single thing. And so while we might get fatigued because we're in the trenches on it, not everybody will.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that means it all works out.
I think you're right, but I think that to I guess Jay Scotty's point about June, like that is right in the middle of all the live action stuff. Like Wonder Man is set off by itself in December, but all the other live action stuff is packed between February and July. And so right at the tail end when we're all excited, and it seems like if they do it 1 week at a time, like they have done with most of their series, most of their live action series, with the exception of Echo, it will run over Fantastic Four. So like it will start, and it will. Yeah. But then I don't think it's a good idea to echo it either, where they throw it all up at once. Like that seems, I hate that.
2 episodes a week. Yeah. 2 episodes a week.
Well, they could do the
daily release.
What if? Yeah, the daily release, like What If, and then it's still at least you can have some sort of water cooler conversation around it. Something like that. But
last thing here, I think it's kind of fitting that none of us brought up Deadpool and Wolverine because I think it's come and gone.
I said let's fucking go.
True, you did. Credit where credit is due. But I just wanted to say, as a veteran, you got November 11th, Veterans Day. A lot of veterans have that day off. You couldn't have dropped it then? I'm not chomping at the bit to see it again. I've seen it 4 times. But still.
Are you speaking as a veteran, Scotty?
I am speaking as a veteran, of course.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we're really giving Jay Scotty a hard time tonight.
No, I'm being sincere.
Yeah, he missed last week. It's
he Scotty is a veteran.
Yeah. We're rehazing him.
Yeah. I'm sure this feels light.
I do have the occasional nightmare where I'm back in like boot camp or something, and I'm like, what life choices did I make that wound me up?
Why?
I can't get off the ship.
Yeah, I can't. Oof.
I like that we're laughing at your pain. Sorry.
That's okay. It's the only way to heal from it.
Yeah, it's always funny when someone says something that's like really is traumatic, but they say it laughing, so you don't want to like not laugh with them and not like take it in the spirit it's given, but you're also like running the risk of them being like, all right, calm down. It's not that funny.
Hey, he gave us the green light, okay?
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got in a final marketing push ahead of its December 3rd premiere, Lucasfilm released final art, a poster, and a new trailer for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. The series, which is helmed by Spider-Man filmmaker John Watts, is an Amblin Entertainment-inspired coming-of-age tale that follows 4 youths who embark on a swashbuckling adventure with unexpected revelations. The trailer is in keeping with what we've seen from the series so far, which is to say feels tonally divergent from anything we've seen in Star Wars before, including new species, planets, and a synth pop heavy score. Do we have any bones to make about it?
I really enjoyed the trailer. I think compared to what we've seen from the series previously, this made strides in terms of actually getting me on board and really excited. I was never not excited for it, but it was one that I was kind of had some reservations about, wasn't over the moon anticipating. But this trailer was cut really well. I loved the music that we're talking about. If I'm not mistaken, that was like an actual like song from the 80s. I can't place the exact song, but it sounded like they just dubbed over the lyrics with like
Major
Star Wars
Tom
Alien
or something.
Was it Major Tom? I saw somebody say that, but
I
didn't think it was Major
we
Tom.
talked about on source pages, and I started singing the wrong song.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Wasn't it that thing? Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. That's not Major Tom.
That's Major Tom?
But it is an 80s song. I don't think that's
Okay.
Major Tom.
I always get Major Tom confused with Space Oddity, but that's,
Yeah.
Venom 3 was too recent, so.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big...
It's Major Tom Coming Home. Skeleton Crew trailer music.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go. But everything that we've heard about this series was telling us that it was going to be a different side of Star Wars, and that remains to be true. It's definitely a little more of a juvenile take in terms of the characters that we're focusing on. It definitely has that suburban feel, but I have the expectation based on this trailer that part of the series is going to be pretty short-lived. It seems like it's not going to take very long at all before we are thrust into the galaxy far, far away. And I'm really interested to see what the story behind this planet, this suburban planet that does not seem to really know what's going on with the greater universe, because at one point they try to pay with old Republic credits, and that just like kind of, you get the sense that kicks off everything. That gets Jude Law's character's attention, and I think the trailer tried to subvert expectations or make you think that he's going to be an unsavory character, and that may be on the table. But I think, given the fact that these are kids, he's probably going to emerge as some kind of mentor or something like that. But I think, again, this was a great trailer. I will be curious to see what the discourse is online. Not that curious, but mildly curious, and hopefully a little more optimistic afterwards.
I definitely got the unsavory character vibe you're talking about, and I feel like he's going to be the Han Solo. He like gets involved. Mm-hmm. They think he's there to help, and then it sort of turns kind of just a selfish asshole, but then he like has a change of heart once he gets to know them. That sort of a thing. Yeah. Or he's just a bad guy, and that would be kind of fun too.
Sure.
This just looks fun. My only real comment on this is to remind everyone that the Daniels directed 2 episodes of this show. So I am more on board with the show than anything Star Wars has ever done. Like, the Daniels made my favorite movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And like, I love the Daniels, and anything they direct, I will go see. So I am all in for Skeleton Crew. This is, just exciting.
We heard it described as Goonies in space at the beginning whenever it was in early production, and that kind of made me not as excited for it. Like, I kind of got that vibe of like, this is going to be a kids show, like this is going to be really focused on the youth and sort of be almost like kind of the youth animated type Disney Junior type Star Wars shows, kind of gave me that vibe. But then more started to come out about it. You saw Jude Law was involved, and all this stuff started to kind of come out with it, and John Watts was going to be involved. And then this trailer, I think, really set up the tone, which really helped me buy in, right? Like, kind of helped me see, like, all right, this is not what I thought it was. This does seem to be a coming of age story in a way that appeals to a lot of people. So I'm excited for it. I think it's cool. It looks like it's willing to experiment. It looks like it's willing to lean into its own tone. And for Star Wars, that's really what you need. Try to set yourself apart. Try to make that. We know that Jude Law's character is going to have some sort of Jedi Force connection. We don't know what that's going to look like, but tie it back to the original thing, and then make a good story. So I think the trailer really, if you're on the fence, if you haven't watched the trailer yet, I think the trailer does do a lot to convince even casual fans that this is a show worth watching.
Absolutely.
Skeleton Crew is coming at a very interesting time in Star Wars fandom, and I'm starting to wonder if it might not just be exactly what everybody needs, because the discourse I see online about it is, in general, like, this looks fun, which I think we've all said, and I think that's great. I love the poster that they released. It's very reminiscent of old school Star Wars posters, which is super fun. I think the aesthetic of the show looks great. I don't know. I'm not judging the show because I just don't know what we're going in for. I don't really know what to expect from it. I think that it's harkening back to the Old Republic is interesting because that's not a time we have spent much time, if any, at all on screens, TV, and movies. We have, I think, in the video games, but I don't know anything about that. So I think that's great. You're bringing in a really far distant part of Star Wars to I think this is in the Mandoverse time frame, so we're in the New Republic. So that's cool. That's interesting. I like that juxtaposition. And I love Neil and his little tiny comb-over hair. He looks so cute. I'm obsessed with little blue Neil.
I feel like if I did my hair blue, I could go for that look.
Yeah, it's just like a down the middle part, He's looking good.
Little part to the side thing.
Making me think of Rick and Morty trunk people. Nobody?
I don't remember the chunk people. Sorry.
I've watched every episode of Rick and Morty, but some of them only once. So
yeah, chunk people's too deep of a cut for me.
I really like the interdimensional cable episodes, so I've watched those multiple times, and yeah,
those are genius. Okay, let's move on to our next story. Let's visit the world of Game of Thrones. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers is gearing up to bring the world of George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones to the silver screen with at least one film in early development. And that's pretty much all we know. There's no creative talent attached, meaning no writer, no director, much less any word regarding on a potential setting or characters that might be involved. Scarce details to go on, but Game of Thrones is a world that looms large in the hearts of many. Do we think it can make the leap from page to screen to an even bigger screen? And if so, what kind of movie or potential filmmakers would we pledge our fealty to?
Yeah, this is a really interesting report that came out from the Hollywood Reporter, and it should be said that this is extremely early development. Like, they don't even have a script, they don't even know what time they would want to set it in, they have no talent attached, nothing. This is just an idea that's on the table to bring a Game of Thrones movie to the theaters, but it does raise the question about Game of Thrones and the fans of Game of Thrones and where that fan base was built. You know, that fan base was built on HBO from a viewing standpoint. It was Sunday night. It was the water cooler Monday show for the nation. You know, millions of people were watching Game of Thrones at its height. It was the most popular show on television by far. It inspired conversation every single Monday. It was the Sunday appointment viewing. And that, to me, is when I think about Game of Thrones, that's what I think about, is that sort of appointment viewing television and how Game of Thrones really embodied that at its height. And then we know what happened with the last season and the disappointment that a lot of people felt. And then House of the Dragon came in and had a really strong season 1, but then sort of hit the same roadblock in season 2. Season 2 was not as well received across the board. A lot of people were not crazy about the direction that it took. And so it kind of begs the question, like, what is a Game of Thrones fan? You know, where do Game of Thrones fans reside? Like, will they come out to the theater to watch a movie? Will they continue their fandom up on the big screen? And I don't think that's necessarily a given. You know, when you've established yourself as a show and you've established yourself as HBO appointment viewing television, and what made Game of Thrones so big at the time was it had the movie level budgets on the small screen, and no other show was really doing it at the level that Game of Thrones was doing it. And does that necessarily translate to a theater, right? Like, will people make that jump, or have they sort of been trained that Game of Thrones is something you watch on television, right? And we wait for it to come on to Max and all of that. So I think it is. I don't have an answer to that question because I don't think anyone does. I think Warner Brothers is asking the same question right now. They're trying to say, can we get people to come out? If we connect it to the stuff we've already put on screen, will people be put off by that, right? Because they didn't necessarily love the way it ended across the board. If we started in a whole new area of the timeline, will people who watched all the stuff kind of be put off by that because it's buying into a new time period? You're going to get the hardcore fans, but what about the casuals who watched Game of Thrones, right? Like, that's who you really want to get to come out to the theater. The people who, they haven't read all the books and they're not like deep in the lore, but they watch Game of Thrones. Like, they were in, like a lot of people in America were whenever that show was at its height, and across the world were. How can we get them to come, right? Like, that's really where you want this to hang out. So I think it's a fascinating position. I think it's a fascinating franchise, but there's a lot of questions that need to be answered here whenever you're talking about, can we get them to come to the theater?
I think the only way this movie idea makes sense is if they follow characters from the show. Like, the only way it makes sense. I think that until you were just talking about it, Jay, I'd never really thought about how disappointing, as a fan of geeky stuff, the Game of Thrones ending was very disappointing. But think about it from the perspective of these people. The reason Game of Thrones is so successful is it made a bunch of people who don't follow geeky stuff, who don't care about dragons, who don't care about D&D, who don't care about any of that. It made them watch this show. Yeah. And they love these characters and love this show. Think about the perspective of those people having watched the disappointing last season. Like, I could just totally imagine being like, oh, I'm finally becoming a fantasy person. You know, like, this is a thing I'm really enjoying. I've never been a fantasy person. Fantasy can be this good. And then that disappointing ending, like, that's really painful, and like maybe makes you turn away from the whole thing altogether, which is probably one of the reasons they're having struggles putting together a new show that would work. But I only think this series jumping to a movie makes sense if they're following the paths of characters that we want to know where they ended up, and we're unhappy with the ending we got. So give us a movie that gives us, Tyrion and Jon Snow and and the other characters that survived, and let us see like where those characters that were beloved ended up for real, in a better way. Like give us some last more fulfilling battle for them to fight.
We just had this conversation last week about can TV shows jump to the big screen, and we couldn't come up with any really good examples. So and we had people comment on Spotify with some examples. Thank you to the people. So this would be interesting. I think, and I'm bad and I haven't watched Game of Thrones yet. Don't worry, Ashley's breathing down my neck about it. I plan to start sometime soon. But I have watched House of the Dragon. I think that a new timeline makes more sense, maybe to start fresh, start clean, because of how badly the taste in people's mouths is about the end of Game of Thrones. Or just standalone, like you're saying, follow a character you love. I also think about House of the Dragon. I don't think they're going to get to everything in the book, because is House of the Dragon going to be 4 seasons?
I believe so.
But there's the potential for a continuation of that show too. So I think the potential is there. I think people would absolutely go see it 100%.
Yeah, I'm the filthiest of casuals when it comes to Game of Thrones. I waited years to watch it, even though people were badgering me to hop on board. And I think I've told this story on Cast before, but it was circa around this time of 2022. I finally started it. I think it was because I was hearing all the positive buzz for House of Dragon, and I binged it. Like, I flew through the thing, and I got to season 6. And I just lost momentum. And I think a lot of that was, hearing the discourse around the final season, especially. So I had the thought, and I know this is not very likely at all, but I wondered, what if they redid that final season on the big screen? They just washed that last season that everybody hated so much and just said, strike that from the canon. We're doing it again on the big screen with the budget. Just like, that would be a headline for you. But
like I just really want to know how they would do that. Like,
it's all a dream.
There are characters.
Yeah, it's a dream.
Like it's all dream trope. Or there's the there are characters who in the show have warged into a past part of the story and changed history or whatever. So like you could also have a character who the way that things didn't end the way they should have, I shouldn't be sitting on the throne or whatever. And then they warg back in time and like change the way that history happened. You know what I mean? Like they would be just really funny if they on screen were like, this didn't end properly. Let me change it,
Instead of hold the door, hold the green light. Hold the green light. But yeah, I am by no means a subject matter expert, so I can't speak to what's going on with House of the Dragons or the way things wrapped up or timelines or anything like that. But I will say Maisie Williams' character was always a standout for me, and given the age of her character, I think there is a future to explore there depending on her fate. And Maisie Williams is super talented. I don't know what she's got going on these days, but I haven't heard that much from her, so that could be a good vehicle. And then dancing around spoilers here, but a character that was in the periphery of Daenerys was my favorite character, Jorah Mormont. And you get his background teased a little bit throughout those first 6 seasons. And based on what we get teased, I think that is a pretty ripe and riveting story that I personally would be very interested in. But Matt, I think you're right. I think in order to get the butts in the seats and to get the box office haul that they're looking for, you have to have some recognizable characters that cross over. You could, take the approach, new timeline, new characters, and maybe that pays off in dividends, but I don't see it at this point in time.
Yeah.
Wasn't there maybe a spinoff for Jon Snow that got shelved?
It's always talked about, and then it seems to have been canceled at some point.
The future is possible.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's exactly what's going on here. Because the jumping, using an existing character to jump to big screen makes sense on 2 realms, because it's what will get butts in the seats, but it's also all of these actors who did their time on television and want to make a big blockbuster movie.
True.
Like, get the chance. That's a way to entice them. Be like, no, this isn't HBO. You're going to be in theaters. Like you could be the number one movie that week. Like you could get a number one movie under your belt and then move on as a movie actor instead of a TV actor. And I think a lot of these guys have tried to make that leap, and it's been shaky for them. Like getting a Game of Thrones movie under the belt could it be a way to entice all those actors who are off doing disparate things back.
Maybe if Kit Harington is in a Game of Thrones movie, Kevin Feige will be like, "Oh yeah, you are in one of mine. We'll do something with you."
Right. That's right. Blade. Maybe we should make a Blade movie.
Aw, poor Blade.
Poor Blade.
You made me think of Emilia Clarke, and I love Emilia Clarke. She's super talented, great in Game of Thrones, but she feels like she's cursed. It's like if she gets attached
it's the
to
Game of Thrones in general.
Is
it the Game of Thrones curse?
With her.
I mean, think about it. Like, go through the list. Go through the list of all of these actors and actresses that were in Game of Thrones. You start to lose track of things that they're in, and that's been a conversation about, like, has Game of Thrones. I mean, obviously,
Jason
Momoa
is probably
brought them stardom, but he was out pretty early on that show.
True,
I mean, he wasn't in the
he
wasn't in the last little bit. So did those last
if
couple
you made
seasons,
it to the end, that's the end for you.
Yeah, like do these last couple seasons, do they kind of hurt the careers of? I mean, it obviously
100%.
made them a lot of money, and all that, but. Yeah, you really look at it, and it's like Sophie Turner, like Maisie Williams, like Kit Harington. It's like they haven't ascended stardom like we thought that they would after Game of Thrones, and I think a lot of that has to do with the way that these last seasons. If I'm those people's agents, I'm not necessarily being like, yeah, let's sign up for that again. Like, let's get you on the big screen for Game of Thrones. Like, I'm kind of like, maybe we should distance ourselves from it a little bit.
Well, and that can be the pitch is like, we know we did you wrong. As Game of Thrones, let us make it up to you. Let us make it up to the whole series. Let's bring it back. Let's do like we had such success. Let's give it to writers who actually care instead of wanting to move on to their weird, whatever that is, historical fiction movie they wanted to make, show they wanted to make. I think there is potential there for sure. And like, if you just saw a trailer, you could just imagine a trailer right now of like Jon Snow. I'm trying to spoil things, but doing what he's doing now and like the intensity of the ending of what he's doing now and it being really intense. And then like in one shot, Tyrion shows up to like say something, then his sister's there. It's like, it could, Arya shows up. Like it could be really like, oh man, this is a Game of, like I could get excited for that. Like this is an actual Game of Thrones sequel movie and not just like somewhere in Westeros or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that audience still feels a little burned.
All in the Game points out Pedro Pascal, and it's been too long since we've had a Pedro Pascal mention on the show. So yeah, that's one of the best.
We mentioned him last week, I think.
He'll get his due. He'll get his due.
Yeah, we'll be talking about him a lot.
He's got Gladiator coming up this month.
Oh, right.
Read his
Fantastic
comment
Four
though,
is next
Scotty. That he's the most successful in everything.
Because he's in everything.
Well, that's another character though that was only in a few seasons.
I know what
of Game
happened
of
to him.
Thrones.
It's okay. I like know the whole shit.
Well, I'm not just for you, but the whole audience.
I'm the only one that matters. I'm just kidding.
Cersei energy over there.
Yeah. Sorry, Haley, you may not get that.
One of the cast members recently did an interview, and I think it was Peter Dinklage on Hot Ones, I mean, and he was for the 5 people who haven't seen that show, and I was like, right here, buddy. Watched 5 episodes.
All right, well, we're gonna dive into our lightning round after this, and you guys, we got a big lightning round. We got Tomb Raider, Scary Movie, DC, Jack Ryan, Wicked, Lego, Godzilla, Alien, The Fly. Cronenberg's The Fly? So many things in the lightning round. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Multiverse News. Sorry, that went a little howly this week. I'm still
like a
recovering from
balloon
Halloween.
letting its air out.
Yeah, we hey, if you like this show, if you like the balloon noises I make when we come back from break or whatever, join us on Patreon. Patreon is the place where you can support the show. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast. And we just, we put a lot of work into the show every week. We really do. We love it. We love making it, but we really try to make the show good and provide good news for you guys and good content, but also make it fun. So If you like the show, patreon.com/multiverse newscast. Be the place to go. Thank you. And our Spotify poll for this week was, did you see Venom on opening weekend? And we had only 21% of you said yes, and 79% of you said no.
Seems about right.
And that checks out with the box office numbers. Which, Venom 3 had a pretty nice second weekend. I mean, it dropped off because all movies do, but it had a pretty nice hold for a second weekend. So I think you got to feel okay if you're Sony with it.
Yeah, that shows that there were people who enjoyed it, and the word of mouth was all right.
Yeah.
We talked about it on, what did we talk about it on?
The MCU cast.
Yeah. I was like, what show did we cover that on?
That other show.
As tangentially as it was related to the MCU, we talked about it over there. And it was pretty good. So yeah.
Better than Let There Be Carnage. That's for sure.
Well,
yeah, for sure.
You can say that about a lot of things.
Yes, you can. Almost all things fit into that category. All right. Well, we're going to dive into the lightning round, I guess. We this is where I'm going to read a story, and the panelists, including myself, will claim that story by shouting out our name if we would like to respond to the story. And only one person gets to respond to each story. But once per lightning round, you get an extra rebuttal. So it's just a way of us covering as many stories as we can here on the show and bringing you guys as much as we can. We got first story. Amazon MGM Studios is testing actors for the role of Lara Croft in Phoebe Waller-Bridge's upcoming Tomb Raider series. Sophie Turner, speaking of Game of Thrones, and Lucy Boynton top Amazon's wish list, according to Deadline.
Scotty, I can't recall if Phoebe Waller-Bridge was working on this project before or after her involvement in Indiana Jones, but it certainly feels like she got the itch there on in Indiana Jones and wanted to,
It was announced after. I remember us talking about it, and I made that exact point. I was like, this feels like that, yeah.
So Tomb Raider has had a pretty spotty track record at the box office. Those Angelina Jolie movies, I haven't watched them in years, but I enjoyed them as a 11, 12-year-old, however old I was when they came out. Never checked out the one that came out in 2018, 2019 with Alicia Vikander. It just did not have strong enough word of mouth for me. But I recently just started on a whim. I started watching that new animated series on Netflix. I got like 2 or 3 episodes into it. Haley Atwell is doing a fantastic job voicing Lara Croft. So I hate to say it, but it's a little difficult for me to get excited about anybody else at this point. Sophie Turner, love her, just don't really see her as Lara Croft. And then Lucy Boynton, don't have any familiarity with whatsoever. But even though I haven't seen Fleabag, I've seen Phoebe Waller-Bridge on the big screen. I've heard the praise and the accolades she's received. So I think she is a strong creative force, and I have confidence in her ability to depict a strong feminine heroine. And I'll be checking it out. I'm a fan of Tomb Raider. Haven't played all the games, but I played that recent trilogy that came out like circa 2012 to 2019. Solid set of games.
Tiny but to say that Lucy Boynton is in Bohemian Rhapsody. If you saw that,
Didn't
she
see it.
was like the okay.
Sorry. Also for the audience, if you've seen it, that's her. It was just funny. Like if you've seen that,
There's somebody out there that went, "Oh yeah."
And James like, sorry.
I'm shocked that you haven't seen that, Scotty.
I don't know why I haven't. I think
I haven't seen it either. I was doing a quick IMDb deep dive.
Okay.
Little known fact about Jay Scotty: he doesn't like music.
Oh, shut your mouth.
Unless it's his
Queen.
own.
I love some Queen.
Yeah, it's a pretty killer movie, and the main actor in it, who I'm forgetting his name
Rami
right
Malek.
now. Thank you. Yes, he amazing in it, just absolutely amazing. I feel like I'm watching Freddie Mercury. My tiny butt is that I have seen Fleabag, and Fleabag is amazing, and I think infusing the humor of Phoebe Waller-Bridge into Tomb Raider sounds like mwah. Like I like Tomb Raider fine, like it's cool, but like Phoebe Waller-Bridge would elevate anything she's in. I think that'd be, or anything that she writes.
I was just remembering Bryan Singer was attached to that Bohemian Rhapsody at first, and then Dexter Fletcher came in. So I think it was just that whole drama around that I wasn't super interested.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, up next, Scary Movie creators Marlon Shawn and Keenan Ivory Wayans are return. I said that weird. I'm gonna say it again. Can't have a Jesus and Penguin situation.
Penguin.
Penguin. No,
it's Penguin. It's like P-A-N-G. Penguin.
Yes, but the part that bothers me is the A after the. It's like Gwen. But you're like Guan. I like it. Believe me.
Hey, I can't change where I'm from.
The holler.
We say penguin.
We say penguin up in these parts.
All vowels are A's in the holler.
Vowels.
Vowels.
Oh, yeah, all vowels are A's in the holler. Okay, sorry. Okay. All right, up next, scary movie creators Marlon, Sean, and Keenan Ivory Wayans are reuniting after 18 years to develop a new film in the franchise for Paramount and Miramax.
Jay, I don't know how Scary Movie as a franchise would work in 2024. I think it could, but you're going to have to sort of change the formula a little bit. It was very much a franchise of its time, and they are box office successes. Like if you go back and look at the budget versus what they made, people did see them kind of in the mid-aughts whenever those movies were coming out, and you had movies like Scream particularly, in which they really leaned into making fun of, and The Exorcist, and it worked for the time because that was a style of comedy. But now in 2024, it seems like comedy in the theaters isn't what it used to be. We're not really putting comedies in the theaters very much like we did. I mean, during the aughts, like comedy was a mainstay sure. in the theaters during the weekend, and that's just not really the case anymore. So we've seen an evolution of comedy on the big screen, and I think that it kind of makes me question, like, if we're going to make a Scary Movie revival, how are we going to adapt it for the times? But then are we talking a streaming movie here? Are we talking a theatrical release? And it's interesting, but I think that conversation has to occur here. I don't think you can just make Scary Movie the way that it was made 20 years ago and just expect it to work like it did back then.
Take my strong hand. I say that all the time.
If you know, you know.
I don't know. Up next, Kelly MacDonald, known for Boardwalk Empire and No Country for Old Men, has joined the cast of DC Studios' Lanterns.
Scotty, not overly familiar with Kelly MacDonald. I did see No Country for Old Men, and I think I saw the pilot of Boardwalk Empire, and I liked it, but never revisited. So that being said, I think I can pretty easily postulate that she is probably connected to Kyle Chandler's... I cannot
Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan, thank you. Just given the age, and I guess my takeaway there is, as much as we've discussed this being a passing of the mantle, and it certainly seems like that'll still be the case. Again, with Kyle Chandler being the first one to be cast, and they kind of cast Jon Stewart after the fact, I am coming away with the impression that this may be Kyle Chandler and Hal Jordan's season, and then we'll see where the characters go after that. But that excites me. We'll see.
Amazon MGM Studios is developing a Jack Ryan film, continuing the series storyline with John Krasinski, Wendell Pierce, and Michael Kelly. Andrew Bernstein will direct, and they're doing all of this just to try to prove the theory last week that no one actually makes a leap from TV to movies, prove us wrong. There's 3 things doing that this week, just trying to prove us wrong.
Jay, does anyone watch Jack Ryan except me?
I've watched the first season.
Okay. I mean, I like it pretty well. It's if you like that genre, if you like Tom Clancy sort of stories, then it is very much that. It's that kind of stereotypical Tom Clancy spy thriller type thing, but it does do that well. Jack Ryan is a character that's been around for a long time. He's been played by a lot of different people, and the John Krasinski version is good. The stories across the season, I don't think there's necessarily a bad season. And I think if you're John Krasinski, you're extremely busy. He even talked about this last season being his last one, and they left the character in a place where they could continue the story. All there has to be is a new mission for him to come back out of hiding and do his thing again. So I can see the formula here. He's very busy. He's producing. He's writing. He's not going to do a series. He does not have time to do a series. But if you're pitching him a movie, okay, all of a sudden he's kind of interested. But Amazon this is one of Amazon's bigger shows in terms of just they're getting their streaming platform off the ground. It was one of their early ones. Like Jack Ryan season 1 was one of the early, like, we're making a streaming service that you can sign up for and watch original content on, and it stuck around. So I think I think the creative team behind it is good. Wendell Pierce is great in it. I like him in everything he's been in, but he's great in it. And then Michael Kelly, I mean, he kind of plays the same guy in everything. He's kind of like the government agent, or whatever, and he's exactly that in this. Like, it's basically the same character that he plays in House of Cards, and to a degree, the same character that he plays in The Penguin. But yeah, I think this is a good move for Amazon, and I think it's an interesting concept, and I like Jack Ryan.
Early box office projections show Wicked opening at over $80 million domestically and Gladiator 2 at $65 million, both debuting on November 22nd.
Haley? I don't find this surprising. We talked about Wicked's pre-sales just going off the charts, and I think the second trailer for Gladiator 2 might have sold it to people a little better. I know I liked that trailer better, so I think Wicked's still going to come out on top, but I think it'll be a big weekend when it comes out.
Mm-hmm. How do we combine the names, though? Glicked?
They've been trying.
You really can't do it.
It's not as good as Barbenheimer,
yeah,
so
Barbenheimer
thankfully I think
organic.
they're leaning away from it.
Yeah, the key with one of those things is, like, you got to be able to understand both names from the one name. Like,
right.
Barbenheimer, you got Barbie and Oppenheimer. It's there. But, yeah, Glicked or Wadiator.
Glicked has been the
Wadiator.
popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Wadiator
it's gross.
has a real, like, gross vibe to it. I agree.
It's real hang-wangy.
Universal Pictures and Lego have partnered to develop 3 live-action Lego films directed by Jake Kasdan, Patty Jenkins, and Joe Cornish. Matt,
Scotty.
what does this mean? Sorry, go ahead. That's all I had to say was, what does this mean? That's all I wanted to say.
My take is not all that different from yours. Why we've seen them be successful in the animated side of things. And talk about putting the cart before the horse. We got 3 movies here. And I will say one of these is not like the others. Like, I look at Jake Kasdan. He did the Jumanji movies. Makes sense. And then even look at, sorry, what was the other name? Joe Cornish. Yeah, he's dabbled in, some fantasy and stuff like that. And Patty Jenkins, while she's no stranger to, like, high concept and franchise material, it just seems a little different for her. So I'm not so worried about Lego. They're one of the most successful companies and brands. Even if these movies tank, they're going to be okay because, like, it just a testament to Lego. The fact that we're in 2024, where kids, like, all they want to do is be on a smart device or something like that. Lego still persists. So, maybe we're wrong on this one. Maybe we'll be eating our words come 5 years from now when the Lego trilogy is the highest grossing franchise.
It sounds like nightmare fuel as I'm trying to imagine live action Lego people.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, that's why I said, what does this mean?
I finally saw that Minecraft trailer when we went to see Conclave, which, what the hell? But it looked terrible.
Yeah. What does it mean to have a live action? Like, the first Lego movie had a live action component, and that was very touching and cool. But, like, what does this mean?
Unfortunately, I'm leaning towards, I think, where Haley was going, where you got, like, heads popping off of one body and going on to another.
I don't like it.
Right.
Well, I have to add the context that all of the animated Lego movies that all sort of share the same universe, following from the Lego movie, there was a Lego movie 2 and a Lego Batman movie and a Lego Ninjago movie too. There was a bunch of them, and they were just diminishing returns at the box office. The Lego movie was a blockbuster, but then they get real bad real fast in terms of like their haul at the box office. Lego movie to Lego movie 2 has a huge drop off in terms of what it made, but the Lego movie brand, all those are distributed by Warner Brothers. These are going to be from Universal, so we've jumped to a new thing. And I think if you're Lego, you sort of want to relaunch. You've gotten what you can out of those original animated films. You're not really seeing success with those anymore. You still have a strong brand. And Lego's, I mean, I have young kids, like, Lego's bigger than ever. That's like the third of my paycheck in the year goes to Lego sets or something probably at this point. And so it's huge. It's a huge brand. And from what we can tell, these aren't even connected. Like, we don't know if they're connected. We don't know if it's like a Star Wars situation, like one director per movie in a trilogy, or if they're just 3 independent movies. I read it as 3 independent movies, but it was not super clear. So I think like that's something you got to keep in mind here, as we are seeing a reinvention. We're seeing a studio jump. We're seeing, hey, let's try it with a new studio. And Universal's like, yeah, we'll take a hugely popular IP and make some movies from it.
Well, I'm sorry. This is way beyond a lightning round at this point for this topic. Apparently, we should have talked about Lego in the main stories tonight. But so one of the things about the Lego movie that was neat is that they could use IP from all of the different companies they had rights to, and somehow I never looked into it, but like I kind of assumed they somehow had rights to use Lego versions of these different characters in various whatever, or did they have to get specific? It just seems like a nightmare to try to make these movies. Like, they had Batman and DC characters, I believe, and it just seems like a nightmare to try to work all that together. And they've made games that are similar, that cross over all these characters.
To Jay's point, that first movie and the first couple of movies were produced by Warner Brothers, and you actually only saw Warner Brothers properties. It was Batman, it was Lord of the Rings, some other stuff. So with these movies, I assume that they're going to lean really heavily into Jurassic Park, probably Wicked. When I went to the theater recently, they had I saw piece by piece the Pharrell Williams biography that was done in Lego, and they did the whole Wicked trailer in Lego style right before that movie. So yeah, that would be my expectation.
Okay, so it was all Warner Brothers properties. I really thought they had a mixture of, you know what? I just said that out loud. I said a Batman and DC characters. I legitimately forgot which one.
Batman's in his own category.
You came around.
Yeah. I did. Okay, so that's interesting. I just imagined like, we're making live action Lego Batman. It stars Robert Pattinson. It's a dark and gritty take. So, okay, but here's my real pitch to you guys for this. Shot by shot remakes, live action remakes of the Lego movie. Just kidding.
I'm still just frightened.
Chris Pratt's up for it.
God damn it, Scotty.
They'll just use the same audio. They're not going to re-record. Just shot for
You don't even
shot
have to do anything. You just got to show up at the red carpet. That's it.
Yep.
We'll AI this whole thing, deep fake it all. Like, just all you got to do is just stamp it.
That's horrible.
All right. Toho has officially greenlit a new Godzilla movie from the director of last year's Oscar-winning Godzilla -1. Jay Scotty.
Thank you. This is incredibly exciting. I think that whole team deserves another effort and deserves to have the limelight once again. But that first movie was so singular and so special to me. Like, I can't help but have a little bit of hesitation. Should they just do one and done? Let that thing be special. Let it live on its own. Hopefully it's not a case of diminishing returns, but I'll be there day one, day minus one.
Is it Godzilla -2? Is that what we're doing? Okay, I don't know.
That implies going back even further.
Right. Exactly. Amazon MGM Studios has acquired American Speed, starring Tom Holland and Austin Butler as the scandal-ridden Whittington brothers, with Oscar-winning producer Charles Roven attached.
Jay, another week, another Tom Holland property. Man's getting busier by the day. But this is a race car movie. I don't know if you know about the Whittington brothers. It was a whole like race cars being funded through drug empires, and it was a whole thing. So I mean, it's making for a good movie. And I mean, Austin Butler and Tom Holland, you couldn't ask for a better pairing, I think, for that type of story. But Tom Holland, busy man. He's got a lot going on.
He's quickly becoming the Pedro Pascal of this era of the podcast.
How dare you?
Ridley Scott revealed to The Hollywood Reporter that he's working on a new Alien movie for 20th Century Studios, though it's unclear if it's connected to the Alien Romulus follow-up or a standalone project.
Scotty, Ridley Scott just can't help himself, can he?
No, he really can't.
Obviously, he's a hugely influential filmmaker. He's created worlds like Alien, Blade Runner. But I look at Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve came in, did his thing. People liked it, but you didn't have Ridley Scott saying, "Oh, now it's my turn to take it back." And it seems like he just can't get away from Alien. Even with, I like Prometheus, Alien Covenant, not so much. Loved Alien Romulus. Super excited for Noah Hawley's FX series Alien Earth. So we got a lot from Alien coming. Like Ridley, you built the universe. Let the new generation come in and take it on. But you can never count Ridley Scott out, even though his track record has been a little more spotty. We're going to talk about Gladiator 2. Well, I guess we did talk about the Gladiator 2 box office there, but yeah, he's still a filmmaker that will get me excited.
Tom Cruise is in early talks with Paramount for a Days of Thunder sequel, according to The Hollywood Reporter.
Haley, Tommy's just doing the things he knows how to do best, which is go back to the things he did in the 80s. My favorite thing, I don't have a problem with this, to be clear. My favorite thing from this article was a quote that was like, well, they said making a sequel to Top Gun wasn't a good idea, too.
That's true. That's true.
I was like, you can't argue with that.
that logic does not hold. So anything you say is a bad idea is now a good idea. It's like a real bounces off of you and sticks to me vibe. I don't know.
I can't guarantee, because wasn't Nicole Kidman in Days of Thunder?
I think that's right. Yeah, that's where they met.
Yeah, that's where they met. I can guarantee there's no Nicole Kidman in the sequel.
Oh, right. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We come here for magic.
But not with my ex-husband.
That's what she's like. I want to see that as her top of her IMDb now. Most known for beginning of the AMC theaters, whatever.
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman's career right now is off the rails. It's amazing to watch.
She's got that movie Baby Girl. Have you seen the trailers for that?
Yeah, it's like an
I
erotic
think I have.
drama or something.
Yeah.
She's doing it all right now. It's fascinating.
Interesting. Nikiatu Jusu is developing a new film in the universe of The Fly for 20th Century Studios. Rather than remaking Cronenberg's classic, she'll direct her own original script set in the universe with Shernan Entertainment producing.
Scotty, I'm not familiar with Nikiatu Jusu, but obviously she must have done something to kind of establish herself as an up-and-comer in the horror genre here. So that being said, The Fly, I love The Fly. Jeff Goldblum in The Fly from the 1970s. If you are a fan of practical effects, I encourage you run to go watch that movie because some of the most fantastic practical effects you will see. So, and I had to actually remind myself that that 1970s film was actually a remake of a 1958 film, which was based on a short story. So, definitely, some Kafka vibes going in, some Cronenberg vibes going in, obviously, but we'll have to wait to see some more and learn some more about what being set in this universe actually means.
Yeah, will The Fly 2 be canon? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Ryan Reynolds is re-teaming for a film that will reunite him with Deadpool and Wolverine co-star Hugh Jackman and director Sean Levy. The film is not for Marvel Studios. Reynolds will
First
write...
name basis.
Yeah, exactly. Reynolds will write and Levy will direct.
Free Guys coming soon to a theater near you.
Free Guys. Oh man, that's so right. You're so right.
I mean, he walked in the room and he was like, "Look, we just made $1.5 billion, and whoever is gonna buy this movie was like, all right, just give us a script.
Well,
we'll let you do it again."
This and the Ridley Scott thing are coming off of last week's 20th Century Studio Story, and both of those franchises were mentioned. So, yeah. Blank check to Ryan Reynolds.
I saw some headline that some celebrity... Oh, it was Martha Stewart. She said, he acts funny, but he's not
he wasn't funny.
So good.
Martha Stewart took a shot at him. She was like, yeah, he's
Go,
not really
Martha.
funny in real life.
Go, Martha. And you can trust Martha because Snoop loves Martha.
That's right.
He acts funny, but he's not funny. It's such a incisive burn for Ryan
It'll
Reynolds.
all come out eventually.
Lord. All right. Well, guys, that's the show. That's the show for this week. If you would like to follow us everywhere, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon or the, comment or subscribe or 5-star reviews, all those things. Let's go around and tell the people where they can find you online. Haley Hobbs.
Yes, on source pages, we dropped our Agatha All Along review and comparison to the Scarlet Witch comics we read. And then we're kind of going week by week for the rest of the year just because of schedules and stuff. So next week, we're going to read some Penguin comics since that show rocks my
it's
socks.
pronounced Penguin.
I'm sorry. We're going to read some Penguin comics next week in the holler with Jay. He's going to read them to his kids before he puts them to bed. And it's called Penguin, Pain, and Prejudice.
I want you to know that I really I am holding my accent back. It really would sound like that if I was truly unchained. I do exercise restraint.
J. Scott St. Clair.
Yeah, at the mention of the Penguin, we are discussing the Penguin over there on Always Watching. So that coverage will be coming to a close before too long here. We got one more episode left, and that has just been a fantastic show to watch and talk about. So I encourage you to check that out. And over on Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. A lot of exciting things right around the corner here. We've got Arcane Season 2 premiering on Netflix this week, as well as wrapping up our coverage of Vox Machina Season 3.
Sweet. And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, commute the podcast weekly like normal, and the aforementioned Always Watching. We have one more episode left, so it's that show's coming down to the wire, and it's going to be really exciting. It's been a great experience. So it's not too late if you are thinking about watching, and you're thinking about getting on before the finale. Get into it.
It's worth it. Binge all 8 and join us. Absolutely. Always Watching's been a lot of fun with the Penguin, as they said. I'm on there as well. It's great. And check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast if you haven't. It's a great time. And we just finished Agatha. Like I said, we did a shot-by-shot, frame-by-frame review of the trailer for Marvel that we talked about earlier in the show. That was a lot of fun. So check that out on YouTube if you want to. youtube.com/strandedpanda if you're just listening to this on the audio. So thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll be back soon. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Thanks for watching Multiverse News. If you like the show, make sure to hit the subscribe and the bell icon and, the comments. Actually, for the comments, which character would you focus on in a potential Game of Thrones movie? Like, pitch us your idea for that Game of Thrones movie. Put it in the comments, and we'll try to, at the end of next episode, throw out our favorites right here.